Welcome into another exciting edition of Locked On 76ers. We got another historic night to talk about, this time surrounding Tyrese Maxey and how he got on the same stat sheet as Wilt Chamberlain. What? Yes. We'll talk about all that and more in this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there. 54 points. PG looks more like PG. Justin Edwards doing his thing, especially on the defensive end for the Sixers. But Keith, let's start with this. Obviously, Tyrese Maxey. And I really try not to text you during games because I know you're busy. I know you're hustling. I know you're taking your notes and all that good stuff. But I heard you ask the first question in the press conference, and it was like you and I were on the same page. And you were talking about this on yesterday's show. Tyrese Maxey did not go all out in that fourth quarter against the Raptors, unfortunately. Just got one shot off, no points, blah, blah, blah. You highlighted that Nick Nurse had told him, hey, man, we need you in that fourth quarter. You got to rev it up. Maxey, 16 points in the fourth quarter alone, en route to the 54 career point night for him. Career high 54 points for him last night. Maxey was lighting it up for the Sixers late, Keith, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is, just be aggressive. The last, and we talked about it. I didn't think that it was a problem of him thinking what he thought was the right play by getting teammates involved. But when you look at the roster, you need Tyrese Maxey overload to score points, and he bounced back. Now, this is the one thing he said in the locker room, too, when he talked about it. He said Nick was right, but Joel Embiid had a stat sheet waiting for him, and he pointed down and said, one shot attempt. You can't do that. And so it was basically Joel reinforced what Nick said, and Tyrese came out and performed well because of that. But yeah, when he's aggressive and everything is going right for him, he's going to get buckets, and they need that. Think about it. 54 points, and it takes you to overtime. So that just tells you how important he is for that team at this particular time.
I look at him in the fourth quarter against the Raptors, and I'm thinking, like, where does he go? Like, I understand they're D'ing him up well and all that stuff, but last night it just looked like he was in constant motion, and that's weird to say. I know about a guy like Tyrese Maxey, usually in constant motion, but he was getting open, getting off the screens. His teammates did a good job of setting him. He really picked up in transition as well. The alley-oop, for instance, to VJ Edgecombe was something spectacular, and that was more on the defensive side on the assist side of things. But with Maxey last night, 54 points, 9 assists. Only he and Wilt Chamberlain are the only Sixers to be able to do that in franchise history. It was a pretty special night for Maxey to also not only just get his, but also be able to get his teammates involved as well.
Yeah, Maxey was funny, though, after the game because he tried to kind of like downplay it. Like I asked him that. I said, I brought up that you and Wilt were the only ones accomplished. He says, great, we won. That's what matters the most. But then another guy wouldn't let him off the hook, and I feel really great for that guy, the guy from AP. He said, but how does it feel about being in that company? And Maxey came back and said, blessed. I thank God for it. Anytime you're in a conversation with Wilt, who scored 100 points, you can't complain. Nah, bro, you can't. And the funny part is when we talk about it, Maxey talked about how when they played the Toronto Raptors and then when they played the Clippers, as soon as they tipped the ball off, they were face guarding. Like they had a guy up in his face getting physical with him, this and that. I think Doc Rivers is going to regret what they did. They went out and they had a zone. And Maxey was able to maneuver through that zone. Typically, a zone, you have a zone thinking that, it forces guys to, shoot jumpers and do all these other things. And if you can't really shoot, it's kind of like you're going to get exposed, whatever. But Maxey, with his quickness, was able to get to certain spots. They weren't physical with him like the other two teams. And if you're not physical with him, he's going to torch you. And that's that's what exactly happened. But he was funny, man. He was trying to downplay the stuff about Wilt. Like, dude, before we're talking about Allen Iverson, we're talking about all these other guys, you and Wilt Chamberlain. But we got to win. That's all that matters.
You mentioned, the Iverson or Wilt and all that stuff. The side-by-side comparison of Tyrese Maxey right now and Allen Iverson's MVP season, it just works out because they wore the black jerseys last night again. But Maxey is averaging a little bit more than 2 more points per game than AI during his MVP season in 2000-2001. He's averaging about 3 assists more per game. He's averaging 1 more rebound per game. His field goal percentage is 5 points higher. Now, one of the first things I did look last night, what did he have? He had 54 points on, was it 34 shots last night? For some reason that's sticking out.
It was 30. He shot 18 for 30. 18
for 30. Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. So yeah, 5 points higher in field goal percentage and 10 points higher in 3-point percentage. Obviously a different game than it was 24 years ago, but still shooting 42.1% beyond the arc this year. That's what Tyrese Maxey's doing, 42.1 compared to Allen Iverson's 32% from beyond the arc. That's pretty remarkable. That's a hell of a season there. And he is now in sole possession of second place in points per game. And then I also looked at this, Keith. This is something that surprised me. I knew he led the league in minutes. I didn't know that he's the only guy to have over 600 minutes played. He's got 610 minutes played now on the season. The next guy I think is Franz Wagner with like 560. Like he has lapped the field essentially on how many minutes he has played. I know we've talked about this a lot with Paul George being healthy. We'll talk about him a little bit more coming up in the next segment. But Paul George working his way back. Hopefully Joel Embiid not too far off. Kelly Oubre is 2 weeks away. Is this just what we can expect for Tyrese Maxey for the season? Or is this just the here and now of waiting to get more guys back healthy?
Here's the deal, dude. At this particular point, you got to keep it up. You know what I mean? Like if you're anybody, like let's say if you're somebody that comes in now and you're seeing the type of year that Tyrese is having, you basically like if you start gunning and you start taking the ball out of his hands, people are going to look at you like you're foolish. And last night, Paul George, I asked him about that, about his running the offense and doing things in the half court. And he basically was like, look, man, I'm trying to help Tyrese out. Tyrese does a lot. I'm trying to set things up for him to get easier shots. So I feel like, if this might have been the first couple of games and then all of a sudden everybody else came back and then next thing you know, they're like, hey, we got to do ourselves. But right about now, you got to keep this up. You just have to, because this is his team. And like when we talked about it before, I felt like Paul George would be a guy who was willing to sacrifice some of his individual stuff to help Maxey out. And I think that moving forward, everyone is going to have to do that.
And let's talk about that Paul George when we come back. By the way, for the record, I do agree with you. Can't stop, won't stop at this point. And there'll be a game or 2 or 3, maybe down the line, where the Sixers have some kind of 20-point lead in the fourth quarter. And it's like, Maxey, you take the rest of the night off. I think he'll make up some time down the line. But certainly for the here and now, not a good idea. When we come back, we will talk about Paul George. An incredible start. An interesting check back into the game in the third quarter. We'll talk about that. And then also just helping the Sixers close out on the defensive end as well. We'll talk about that and more with Paul George when we return. This is Locked On 76ers and the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Back after this. And now it's time to tell you about Q. That's right. Excuse me, Quo. That's it. Quo. Q-U-O. Quo. The smarter way to run your business communications so you never miss an opportunity. Quo, as in status quo, is the #1 business phone system built for 2025, not 1995. It's simple, modern, and designed to help you communicate faster, look more professional, and stay connected wherever you're working. You'll absolutely love Quo. It works right with an app on your phone or computer. No extra devices, no clunky landlines. Your whole team can share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, for instance, which is an absolute game changer. It means your customers get help faster and you don't leave money on the table. You put money in your pocket. Built-in AI is also a game changer. It logs your calls, writes summaries, and even sets up follow-ups automatically. It makes small businesses feel big and big businesses feel more efficient. No wonder over 90,000 businesses are already using Quo. So try Quo for free at quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. And yes, you can even keep your existing number. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Oh, this one hits close to home today with DoorDash, ladies and gentlemen. NBA season, it's heating up just like Tyrese Maxey. The DoorDash is where it's at. DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching your highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game and every game night that much more exciting and that much better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. Player-inspired drip as well, gear that you're actually going to want. DoorDash has you covered late-night highlights, last-minute watch parties, and double OT fuel-ups. Or single OT like last night. So next time someone goes off for 50 points like Tyrese Maxey, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off your DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus, your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only 50% off up to $10 the next day after a 50-point game with promo code NBA50. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. 25 points logged for Paul George last night. 21 points in total. 25 minutes logged. 21 points scored. 11 points in the first 2 minutes and 14 seconds of the game. Keith, that looked a hell of a lot more, although just 25 minutes, a whole hell of a lot more like the Paul George that we have come to know and love over the course of his career.
Oh, you're definitely right. I mean, and it's funny. I haven't seen what, I will say this. It was the way that he started. I think that was better than the Paul George we've seen for the most part throughout his career. Because when you look at him, he is more of he's a blend-in guy. Like, he's not the type of guy who, wants to, he's an all-star, but he doesn't want to be that dude, taking all the shots and everything like that.
Like right now in his career.
Yeah, well, no, it was, I'll be honest. Like, since he left the Indiana Pacers, he always wanted to go to a team where he didn't have to be the guy. Like, he wanted to be a part of a group, right? So he comes out, he hits a 10-footer, then he comes out and he buries 3 straight 3-pointers. He was 4 for 4 shooting, scored the Sixers' first 11 points. So I talked to him about that. I asked him about that, and he said that was kind of the mindset, talking about attacking the game, right? He said, I know these guys played last night, so I'm fresh. I tried to come in, get the boost, just morale on both ends. I tried to impose my will on defense and then come out with the burst offensively. So basically what he was trying to do is he knew that Tyrese and them were a little tired. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to take it upon himself to set the tempo. And then if we notice, the Sixers' following points came when he assisted on the alley-oop dunk by VJ Edgecombe, which was a smart play, because those are the type of plays that you do for a guy like VJ who was struggling offensively to get in the mix, to get in the flow, to build some confidence, right? So PG, he really, like I said, when he was with Indiana, he was scoring all those points. With other stops, he was like, the secondary scorer, this and that. But he came out and he attacked to take the pressure off of his teammates, to give them a nice lead. And then he started trying to distribute the rock to get them involved, get them easy shots. They need that from Paul George. And if you keep that up, they're going to play well. They're going to play well.
He was certainly a man on a mission. I agree. The Indiana Pacers, Paul George, obviously the best we've seen. The group, I see what you're saying. That's a really good point. As far as, when he was in OKC or when he was in LA, do you think, I don't want to say the next step down, but do you think this is the next phase of his career where he's not necessarily playing like on the same level as a guy like Kawhi Leonard or anything like that, but he's more so closer to a role player here in Philadelphia with the ability to go on a run like he had last night? How would you, or do you think it's no different? Am I crazy? Do you think it's no different with how he's trying to fit in here in Philadelphia?
You know what? That's a great question. I think what it is the best way to describe what could happen. It's kind of sort of like when, you had David Robinson, you had Magic Johnson, you had a couple other guys. As they got older in their careers, they still were all-stars. They still were pretty good players. They just focused on other things, right? And a prime example, what did he do? Now, we all know that Paul George has always been an elite defender. We all know that he can handle the rock and do all those other things. But the thing that he did that stood out to me was Maxey and whoever else would bring the ball up. They would give the ball to him in the half court, and he would run the offense. Now, he didn't always score a point. He didn't always get an assist. But what he did is he made the right pass and it sets things up. So, to me, yes, I feel like some people may say is a step down, is a step lower. He's going to be a role player. But I look at it more as the stabilizer. Like he comes in and he stabilizes things for them, right? You know what I mean? Like what you need him to do, that's what he's going to do. And he even addressed that after the game, which was pretty good. Like, because I mean, to me, that was not strategic, but it was like really helpful. And then on the defensive end, he made some pretty good plays. Like one play, they were driving. Who was it? It was Kyle Kuzma was driving the lane. This dude goes out there and just reaches out and grabs the ball, right? So I asked him about, his running the offense in the half court. He said, listen, whatever it is to make the game easy for number 0. He said, I've been saying he's been doing a lot for us. He might not want to say it, but I know he's tired. He's got to be tired. So, I'm just trying to make the game easy for him within the offense, play my game. But then he also added, he said, but also, I do feel like I can see plays ahead and kind of see where guys should be and balancing the floor and just trying to give us the best opportunity of getting a good shot each possession. And that's what my man did. So, again, like when we talk about role player and stuff like that, I look at him as being more of a stabilizer, a facilitator. He doesn't have to score a lot of points as long as he plays defense and does that and then score when they need him to, right? When they need him to, I think that, he's going to have a really great season.
I like that. I like that. Not just a facilitator, but also somebody to stabilize. I like that. Now, as someone like me, I also cover the Eagles. It's not a selfless environment all the way around, unfortunately. There's a couple of selfish players in that locker room. So it's odd to hear Paul George give that much love to Tyrese Maxey and credit him. And then at the same time, Tyrese Maxey credits Paul George. And I can't remember, Keith, if it was in the locker room or if it was in his post-game TV hit after the 54 points that he dropped on the Bucks. But they asked him about the success and all that stuff. And he's like, well, it's good because we got PG. I got PG. People, focus on PG defensively, PG. All the credit was given elsewhere last night. And it speaks, I think, to the selflessness of the team. And if that's all true, which I have no reason to believe it's not, then this team is just, scratching the surface on what they could accomplish this year. Assuming you get, Kelly Oubre back at 100%, assuming you get Paul George just ramping up and staying healthy this year, and Tyrese Maxey continues to get better. How much better he can get from 54 points, I don't know, but I wouldn't mind seeing it again. This team is so unbelievably selfless when it comes to crediting the other guys that help make them successful. And Tyrese Maxey putting that back on Paul George, after you just telling me Paul George was putting it on Maxey, it makes me think that the sky is the limit for this team down the line.
The sky, it is. Now, one thing, though, this was a team that, you know, they didn't have Giannis. They didn't have a lot of people. Some people may say the Sixers didn't have Joel Embiid. But there are some people may say the Sixers been playing better without Joel Embiid thus far. Yeah. So this was a step in the right direction. I just want to see them when they can do this against an elite team. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Now, this team was winning, you know, but at the same time, they made some blunders by leaving Tyrese Maxey, not having a guy on Tyrese Maxey being physical with him. It was kind of like, okay, you sure you want to do that?
Well, yeah, that's very true. So no Giannis in the zone and all that stuff. But here's one more thing I'll add to it. If I would have told you that the 76ers, Keith, were going to play an overtime game with the Bucks on the second leg of a back-to-back, are you telling me they're winning that game?
Nah, but
no. And we both didn't think they'd win the game yesterday.
Look,
we were both like, I don't think it's tonight.
I'm gonna tell you this real quick,
What's that?
You would never think that their fans would leave at the end of regulation.
Oh,
yo, they was like, hey, look, bro, if it's overtime or not, I gotta go to work in the morning, dude. They were just leaving. It was like Elvis has left the building. It was crazy.
Also, that was the first time I had ever. That was the first time I ever seen noticed what their cream-colored jerseys say. Cream City.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did look it up, and then I think Kate Scott even asked Allah about it on the broadcast. But it has to do with the brick. In case anyone was wondering, it has to do with the specific type of brick they use on their old
got
buildings
a cream brick
in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
They got a cream brick out there. That's why it's the Cream City, apparently.
Okay.
All right. We'll sing the praises of an actual full-blown role player when we come back. Justin Edwards. Oh, no, wait. There was one more thing on Paul George. I'm sorry. Defensive purposes, I assume, at the end of that fourth quarter, PG checked back into the game for like the final 13 seconds. What was the thinking behind that? Just defensive possession there by the
let's face it. He's probably your best defender right then and there. It's 13 seconds. You know, he had a minute's restriction, what have you. But at the same time, you want to get him out there and play. And I guess it was one of those things where Paul stepped up and was like, look, put me out there. We got to win this game. To me, that showed a lot. Like a guy like Embiid, I know he tried to do it earlier and they wouldn't let him. But at the same time, we look at the different injury histories or the need, whatever. That said a lot to me that Paul was able to go out there and do certain things, right, to do that. So that was a big play in my eyes for him.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about that Justin Edwards character on the 76ers, break that down, all that and more in this edition of Locked On 76ers. And right now, it's time to tell you about PrizePicks. Are you guys not having a good time with PrizePicks? Are you not enjoying all PrizePicks has to offer? Well, what are you waiting for? Now's the time to get in on PrizePicks. This episode actually brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I, we got to make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL or NBA or both, for instance. There's no better time to jump in on the action than with PrizePicks right now. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stat projections. And if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature on PrizePicks, by the way, is a real game changer. You can now pick more on Steph Curry's or Tyrese Maxey's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves lineup from a loss. Not too bad. Download the PrizePicks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Justin Edwards, Keith Pompey, mostly on the defensive side of things, and I heard you asking Nick Nurse about this. His confidence is certainly back. He had a nice little run, but defensively, I mean, I can remember every coach I've ever had say, growing up, Keith, you probably heard the same thing. Your shot's sometimes not going to fall, but defense will always be there if you just, give a damn, basically. And Justin Edwards certainly plays with that in mind. And I thought last night in the fourth quarter overtime, he was providing some pretty solid defensive play.
Oh, no doubt. And it started off early because what they did is they had him in the front with his long arms, his wingspan, and he was guarding players, and some guys were scoring. But he ended up with 2 steals in the first quarter. And the funny thing is, those 2 steals, he ended up with those 2 steals, but that was a season high. Like, he only had 3 steals coming into this game, right? So when you look at it, it's like it set the tempo. It got to a point where they kept like running guys, doing switches, trying to get them off of their best offensive players. So he had a presence. So then when you look at it, you're switching, but at the same time, you don't want to switch on to Paul George or anybody else like that. So it was kind of like pick your poison, so to speak. And then you're right. In the overtime, he did play well too. But then when I talked to him about it, Nick said some great things, but I asked him about his defense, and he says, I take pride in it. That's what the coaches expect from me every game. So, I go out there and I try to guard everybody's best ball handler and put them to the test, honestly. And, we talk about the shooting. He did struggle. He had 7 points on 3 for 10 shootings, but he made the right plays on the offensive end, I thought. Like on one occasion, he drove the lane, wrapped the pass around the defender into the arms of Andre Drummond, who scored an easy layup, right? So Edwards had 3 assists. He had 4 rebounds to go with those 2 steals.
Yeah, I'll take that from him every night. Please and thank you. One more role player I want to talk about. I see somebody asking about him last night. You a fraud? not us. That's the guy's handle or person's handle, 5838. Jared McCain looks like he put too much muscle weight on. Looks slow now. I feel like it's going to be a slow burn here with Jared McCain finding his way back and finding his new place on the NBA roster now. But I feel like I've seen him get better since coming up from the G League, albeit a very small sample size. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if he put too much muscle on. I think he has to get stronger and things like that. I don't know if he looks slow right now. I think the one thing that we got to be patient with is when you typically have this type of injury, yes, you could come back within a year, but you're not yourself until 5 months after you come back, right? So maybe, what is it, a year and a half, but I think that he'll get it. It's just a matter of getting back in shape, getting in rhythm. I mean, we got to realize something. While these guys were in training camp and they were doing stuff, he was sitting there watching. And now he just has to get back to the speed of the game. I don't know if Jared McCain, like if we have a track meet, if they had a track meet on the team, I don't think Jared will finish in the top 4. But we got to realize these guys, the other guards probably will, at least Maxey, Edgecombe, and, Kelly Oubre probably would too, the top 3, maybe, Quentin Grimes might be cracking. So, you got to give him some grace. Like right now, he has to get up the game speed, and it's hard to do it when you haven't played in a year. NBA.
Very true. Very true. By the way, don't forget to check out Josh Lloyd's #1 fantasy basketball podcast, Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and also the #1 sports podcast network out there. This has been another exciting edition of Locked On 76ers. He's Keith Pompey. He's got a flight to catch, ladies and gentlemen. The man doesn't stop. I'm Marc Farzetta. We appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate you guys subscribing. Locked On 76ers. Download, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll be back with you guys on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend. And yes, of course, go Birds. Have a great weekend, everybody. Safe travels, Keith. See you, buddy.
All right, see you, man. Peace.